Ready, set, go!
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2023 Annual Conference. It's in Philadelphia, December 4th through 6th, 2023, setting the standard transformation through accreditation. You don't want to miss it. Register now at msche.org.
Surprise!
We're taking the EdUp Experience podcast to Insights EDU. Join us for an incredible higher education marketing and enrollment management conference, February 20th to 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50 off your registration. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio back here on another episode. A quick story, you guys. As you know, my guest actually he's coming in now. He's sideways in his video screen. We're seeing him sideways. I think he probably looks straight up and down to himself, but to me, he's completely flipped to the right. But that's okay. We're going to talk to him either way. I tried to test some new technology today, new recording technology, because Zoom has a lot of limitations, particularly around the sound effects, which for me is a big deal, right? I need to have clarity in the sound effects, and I can't ever figure out my microphone. It's too loud. It's too soft. The piece of equipment I have somehow dulls my voice, and then everybody else sounds super loud because they use their computer audio. I can't ever figure it out. So I said, let me try some new technology. So I went and I figured out some new technology, got all my guests in there, and there was echo. Couldn't figure out how to turn off the echo. So here we are back on Zoom recording and turning it into audio podcast. I will tell you, we always used to blame it on the guests and say, all right, guests, we're not going to give them Restream or Riverside or StreamYard or any of those, because everybody wants Zoom, but little did we know it's for me.
Joe, yeah. Get on with it.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest co-host, who I tried to give him the wrong time, but somehow he still made it to the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a guru. He's Dr. Bill Pepicello, former president of the University of Phoenix and higher ed vagabond.
Hey, Joe. How you doing? Glad to be back. I'm like a bad penny. I keep turning up.
You really do. Bill, I got to say, I heard little birdie told me you were experimenting with your own sound effects, perhaps in future episodes of EdUp Insights. Shameless plug.
Yes. I actually have got a soundboard up, and I'm going to use it on EdUp Insights, which is my weekly podcast every Monday, folks. So you can look at that when you're not reading my book, Leadership on the Field of Play, which is available at Amazon. And actually, I've used a couple in my podcast already, and I'm not up to your standards yet, but I'm working on it.
Just remember,
nobody can do that like me.
As long as you remember that, you'll be fine.
Okay.
See? I always got something for you, Bill. Yeah. All right. Our guest has figured out his video now, so we're going to bring him in. He's got a lot to say about the work that he's doing right now. Some big updates going on. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Rick Beyer. He's executive chairman of Core Education. Rick, welcome back to an EdUp Experience microphone.
Joe, great to be with you and Bill.
Last we spoke, Rick, was episode 130. Well, I mean, you and I have spoken after that, but last we spoke to an EdUp audience, episode 132 in 2020 as senior fellow of AGB, merger and acquisition strategy, so on and so forth. I mean, what's happened, Rick, since then?
Well, what's happened is the business model for higher education continues to deteriorate.
Surprise.
So it's not getting any better. So if we take a look at, over the past 3 years, it's just gotten worse. Our quality of earnings, the way, we're having to do more with less is just putting an incredible burden on institutions. And so having worked with, about 100 different colleges and their boards, and seeing while the merger and acquisition market will still see some, the real, I thought, route that I could help out with was trying to help colleges address transformation of the business model. and how to focus in on taking their institution from trying to survive to a focus on long-term prosperity.
And how have you done that, Rick? Tell us a little bit about core education. How did it come together? You know, whose idea was it? I'm assuming it's your idea. How did it come together? How did you get schools involved and on board? Not easy work.
Right, it isn't, Joe. I founded CORE in 2019, but it was really after reflection and talking with a number of institutions. I had met with probably over the years about 4 different groups of private colleges who thought perhaps if we could get together, those colleges could get together and do some shared services that they might be able to take advantage of some economies of scale. And while at the macro level, the 100,000 foot, that sounds great. Taking it from that concept to reality is not simple. What I found is that even if you had a group of 4 or 5 or 7 schools, nobody could agree on anything. They couldn't really agree on the time of day because every institution has their own issues, and so they have to be met where they're at. I also saw in the market supporting organizations, TCS Education Systems and National University Systems. And I was very impressed with the work that they were doing, and the institutions that are involved with that were truly doing better. I thought that when I founded CORE that we would try to do what we would call supporting services in a supporting organization without change of control. Allow the institutions to control their destiny, meet them where they're at, and work one by one with an institution on big issues of business model transformation. And over time, economies of scale would come around. So fast forward today, we signed our first institution in late 2021. We're at today, we have 17 institutions with a collective budget of $800 million.
Amazing.
That us to have some really incredible economies of scale to help focus in on big issues.
Now, but Bill, I'm going to pass it to you, but at one point, Rick, that you made that I think is it's a critical point. And when you're talking about change of control, because in the merger and acquisition space, particularly around a nonprofit, and for-profits aside, but around a nonprofit institution, if you're merging or becoming acquired, which is kind of, there's no exchange of dollars typically, but you're giving up a change of control. Your board ceases to have control, and the surviving entity's board pretty much takes over and as a sole member or otherwise. And I know this from institutions that I have met with at Lindenwood, because we have an M&A team, and we acquired Dorsey College out of Michigan earlier this year. Of the nonprofits we met with, it was very interesting, and you know this better than anybody, but Rick, the change of control, giving up control is a major issue. And that against, well, I think we have a year or two. We're going to let it go another year or two, and then we'll have this conversation. Well, in a year or two, I'm going to be so underwater, nobody's going to want me. And so there's this dissonance that exists on those nonprofit boards.
100% correct, Joe. And this is why I think you're not going to see as many mergers, because of the inaction with the boards. The boards don't understand, they're not willing to give that control up. They will hold on to the very end. And as you said, when they're ready, nobody wants them because they're just too far gone. So as opposed to trying to, and I still do M&A work and in the market, but I felt like that we could do better work and impact the industry in a more profound level if we focused in on business model transformation without the change of control, and then helped institutions try to get into a different mindset, including the board, about what is it going to take to transform the business model.
Yeah, we're going to help you survive, basically, as the message, right? Bill?
Yeah, well, and I'm sure Joe knows this because we talk about business models all the time. And I've been screaming about it on my podcast, EdUp Insights, and you can look at those. But, you know, I go way back, Rick, and as far as shared services go, and early renditions of OPMs was the relationship between the Apollo Group and University of Phoenix. And we didn't get it right. And if you're watching what's going on with the University of Phoenix now, you'll see that they still haven't quite gotten it right. So we'll see what happens there. But it's fascinating to me because the model that you are putting forth is exactly what higher education needs. And I want to get to what's the financial model that you're moving toward, because clearly what you are working at is not a cure-all for these institutions, but giving them a boost, a hand up to make themselves successful and survive. And I think that's where a lot of the mergers and acquisitions are going wrong, where some of the OPMs are going wrong, is that that's not the goal. There isn't a long-term goal for sustainability. So I'll let you respond to that.
Yeah, I think that one of the additional areas of why we exist is to help bring the depth of resources and depth of talent that just is a shortage across so many institutions. Now we're primarily been focused on institutions with, say, less than 5,000 students, but that doesn't mean a year or two down the line we'll end up working with larger institutions. But we know at that level below 5,000 students, there a significant lack of economies of scale, lack of depth, and when we think about the the business model, one of the things that we'll look at is really unwrap their cost structure and really take a look at what I'm going to call the cost of goods sold on delivering education, and which is really I call it the central nervous system of a financial model. If you can get your cost of goods sold right, there's a lot of great things that you can do.
Epic.
So as you look at the landscape today, looking at things like loan forgiveness and the very recent new gainful employment solutions that the government is offering, do you see those more as sort of Band-Aids for this financial model that's not working? And something that, you can't just keep putting another Band-Aid on it. You've got to completely revamp that system.
I think that it doesn't address the root cause, Bill. And Band-Aid would probably be a good, it might help a particular segment of the consumer market. But when you think about the institution's financial model and what it's going to take to transform, not just financially, but just what is delivered from education and how it's delivered, is a daunting task. We particularly focus in on 4 areas: revenue, growth and diversification, technology and digital, and then the third one is operational effectiveness, and then the fourth one is capital strategies. So we cut across horizontally virtually every part of an organization at an institution, but those 4 areas we've been incredibly busy in.
Yeah, let me just one more follow up, and then I'll throw it back to you, Joe. What I'm really wondering about is how do you get some of these institutions to think out of the box? Because that's what's limiting them. Sometimes they don't realize they're in one.
100% agree, Bill. One of the things we talk about, and it starts with the president. When people ask me, what are you looking for in an institution? I'll just say presidential leadership, number one, and then some board leadership. Those are the 2 important ingredients, but definitely bullseye on the president. Now, one of the things that we help, we even talk about this in our webinars and our education series, is that the institutions have to get out of the austerity mindset. And that's that box that you talk about, Bill, because it starts with, we don't have the money to do this, we don't have this, so therefore we can't do that. And that limited, just the mindset of austerity limits them on the options, as opposed to what I'm going to call a mindset of abundance. And it doesn't have to be any different in financial conditions of the college, but just starting with those two are critical, because then all of a sudden that box, we can move, that box is bigger now, right? There's no answers in that box, that small box. Everybody's looking for it. It just doesn't exist. So we help identify and show the pathways forward for each institution on a short, medium, and long-term basis.
Rick, talk about, take me through what it's like to onboard with CORE. You have 17 different institutions, you said. Is there a shock and awe part of this where Rick and team, you know, somebody expresses interest and you go in and you say, XYZ institution, we looked and you're going to die if you don't do something, right? Is there like a shock and awe moment, or is it more proactive and the president's coming to you going, you know, I'm really concerned that in 3 years or 4 years, we're going to be in serious trouble, Rick, and I'd like to explore how to think outside the box, or somewhere in between?
Yeah, it's probably somewhere in between, Joe. One of the things that we do a lot on is we will talk about first gaining understanding of what we do, awareness, understanding, and alignment. Those are kind of the three things. So, you know, making people aware of what we're doing, but then where it really gets interesting is taking the time with the institution, having them fully understand what we do. We're particularly focused on the presidents and the boards. What happens is that while the vice presidents are critically important, what happens is that tends to drive more of a tactical conversation. And this is, you're not going to go through transformation with tactics. You have to be able to take a couple of steps back. And as we get to know each other and they start to understand what is possible, because we will know about them, we will do a lot of research. But as we start to show what might be possible with their institution, then we'll run what we call a prosperity study. And it's only when we've gotten to know each other. But that prosperity study is generally completed in about 60 days. It's not long. And what will come out of that, a number of things that we might do. We definitely will do what we call a prosperity gap or quality of earnings. We'll look at their cost of goods structure, the cost of delivering education. We'll do a revenue analysis and see how heavily concentrated they are, or particularly take a look at revenue segments that haven't been scaled. Then we'll come up with strategic growth building blocks to help show them where they may have to grow. We'll take a look at all of their tech. We'll look at their operating rhythms and policies to see where they're in market or out of market, a lot of out of market practices. And so through that, and then we will identify with them, you know, we'll show some of the supporting services that we can help them with. How can we do some things with you, not for you, but with you? And what we call active management. We're part of the team. We're really like an operating partner. But our model is not really an OPM. We don't do any rev share or anything along the ways.
Is it a consortial type of charge, or is it can I a la carte this? You know, Rick, I really need operations support, but not so much tech support. Talk about how the institutions choose the support.
Yeah, generally speaking, what we'll try to do with an institution is we'll try to focus in some big areas. And while they can a la carte for sure, to start a la carte doesn't even begin to address transformation. So what we'll try to do is focus in on a couple of big areas that can move the needle. Now, if they need something specific, just a la carte, something happens, I need this. We have plus 100 people now in the organization, predominantly employees. We can move the needle. We can, we had one of our partners who had lost their enrollment VP, in the April timeframe. We didn't miss a beat. We were there. The person left on a Wednesday. On Monday, we were there, and they ended up having a high enrollment call because we were able to get in right away and start changing some things around, helping improve the speed. The onboarding starts with that prosperity gap. We will meet the institutions where they want to be met. So there's no prescribed, but I think one of the things that we can help them is we do open their eyes about what's possible, because oftentimes you're looking in that box, as Bill said, for the answers, and there's just no answers. You have to take a different paradigm.
Tell them like it is.
Yeah.
Bill, should you register for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education annual conference this December 4th through 6th in Philadelphia?
100%.
I agree, because the title of the conference is called Setting the Standard, Transformation Through Accreditation. There is no time like the present to explore opportunities in higher education and the future for our students and our business model. Get out and network with your peers this December 4th through 6th at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education Annual Conference.
Attention.
Are you ready to elevate your institution's marketing and enrollment strategies? Join the EdUp Experience podcast at the Insights EDU Conference, February 20th to 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona. Don't miss out on this opportunity to hear from engaging speakers from industry-leading companies like Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, and higher ed leaders. Learn the latest marketing and enrollment strategies to grow your programs. Register now at insightsedu.com and use promo code EdUp to save $50 off your registration.
Attention.
Yeah, well, one thing that, well, actually a couple of things. First of all, for people listening to this, there are two phrases that you need to write down. One is a mindset of abundance, which is a wonderful phrase that I'm going to
Yes.
and the prosperity study.
Yes.
Really talking about getting out of the victim stage and becoming proactive. But one thing I'd be interested in having you talk a little bit about is, where do you draw all your expertise from? You say, well, somebody needs somebody. I reached out and we were there in a couple of days. What's your staff like? Where are they? You know, how does that work?
Yeah, well, it starts with the chicken and the egg, and we decided to start with the egg.
Surprise!
And so what was interesting is as I was talking with institutions about how one might go about setting up this supporting organization, it did take some capital, right? So we had to put capital up because it is the chicken and egg. You have to have some resources, and you have to have good resources, and they can't actually be 1099s. They have to be really more permanent, because you need permanent people. You can't just, people coming and going. So I would probably say we're probably an 80% employee, 20% 1099. So we need the people, and we're able to fractionalize. So as we now have 17, we're able to hire really good people, like tech people, because if somebody's on cyber at a small college, they might be doing cyber and 4 other things, right? And they just want to do cyber. And we can give them cyber across many institutions. There's a lot more career path progressions for all of our employees. So we're able to hire good people. And then it really took a little bit of time to get the economies of scale on our side. And now we're there. We're now at that economy scale. And so it's a good feeling that we can move people in and out. We're keeping, we're definitely, looking at hiring more people.
Wow, cool. I've going to change direction a little bit. So try to stay with me, Joe.
I'm going to go look at your podcast while you change direction. Not listen, just look. Like you're. Like
that's what I was afraid of that. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the issues that I ran into constantly working with OPMs and shared services agreements and building firewalls between the Apollo Group and University of Phoenix were regulatory and accreditation issues. So as you are, building these affiliations, do you find that you're getting government or accreditation interference?
We haven't, actually. We haven't. I think that...
You cut out there just for a second, Rick.
Pardon me? You
cut out for a second. Did you say you had not?
No, we have not. No, we have not. It's probably maybe because the way that we're organized. We're really just a fee for service. So we show that it's all open book. There's no rev share, because we need, we will curate content. We have an academic affairs team. We're curating content. We're act as almost like a external product development group for our institutions. But anything that we get or we're able to find or curate, the college gets it all. They have 100% margins. We take no rev share in anything. I think that's been really helpful. I've got really good relationships with the accrediting body, and we're really open about what we're doing. We're a public benefit corporation. We're just genuinely doing good work. We're not doing probably the one area that we're not doing any detailed work is financial aid. Pretty much stay away from that right now. But we've been very, very open book. It is at the end of the day, there is a master contract. And then what we'll do is sign statements of work for that college. So some of our earlier colleges now, we might have 8 or 9 statements of work because we're doing more and more institutional research to marketing or capital strategies and the like. So, but no, we've been very, very open, but and also open book, and I think that might be part of we're just putting everything out there for people to see.
Yeah, let me just do one quick follow-up, and then I'll throw it back to you, Joe, because some people here won't really understand the phrase public benefit. So explain what that means for folks.
It allows us, as a corporation, it allows us to put mission side by side with margin. And actually, it's a very purposeful distinction that we've elected to take because it allows us to do some things that are mission aligned. And every year we do our own, annual review and annual report on what we're doing that will meet our mission. And if you're not a public benefit corporation, you have no obligation to do that. And so we take that seriously because we're serving nonprofits, and I think it's really served us well, Bill, because we've done some pro bono work for organizations, and just like anything, when you're giving service, you ultimately get helped along the way. So it's been really helpful to us.
Rick, you Core Education just announced, or CIC just announced, Council of Independent Colleges, that you have partnered to offer something. I'm assuming some level of partnership with anybody affiliated with the Council of Independent Colleges, who I think they have 700 or so members. Talk about that partnership. I'm using the word partnership. I don't know how you're couching it, but talk about that. Why that's important to CIC? Why that's important to Core?
Yeah, it's a very important relationship for both of our organizations. We've been chatting with CIC for over a year and just having them get to know us and having to get to know the genuineness of what we're trying to do. And realizing that those 700 institutions, while there's going to be a number of them that'll have, 500 million, a billion, a couple of billion in their endowment, that's okay. But, 80-90% plus of those organizations are not going to be there. And when they just saw what we're doing, how we're doing it, I think that we were able to build credibility. And then as they were able to talk with our partners and they saw how we work, it was just a very natural agreement. And so we're now starting to get, presidents calling, like, tell us more. I didn't know you were out there, which is part of the awareness. And then it's really all about spending enough quality time and having them understand what is possible with the presidents and then maybe some board leadership. Those are the 2 areas. But it's been a great relationship, but definitely in the works for a good year plus.
What's scalability look like? 17 institutions is a lot. It's a lot in any kind of context, 20, 25, 30, 300. Can you talk about a little bit about how you see this model scaling, and at what point is too many, or is that not a thing?
I think that when we what I mentioned earlier is the way that we're organized into revenue growth and diversification. That's one area. The 2 is technology and digital. The 3rd one is operational effectiveness, and the 4th one's kind of finance, capital strategies, refinance. And so what we see is that it provides us a lot of diversification of revenue as an organization, and not everybody's doing everything, right? So we might have several institutions that are doing nothing but digital, tech and digital, and we might have some others that are doing revenue growth and diversification, and others that are doing a mix and match. So the nice thing about it is that we're not providing the same thing to everybody. So we have the organization will continue to scale because we want to get, I mean, we have a little over 100 now people. Again, probably 80% plus of them are employees. We need the employees because we want the long-term commitment. But we'll probably take a good 10 a year on it, just the way that the conversations are going. But when we take a look at, we'll probably be around 20 institutions and $1 billion worth of system budget, just that collective program. We're not counting their endowment or anything, just kind of the programming budget. And then what we'll continue to do is keep building out the practice areas. We do have also some products, some business intelligent platforms, and other things that we can provide. But it is, I think we have a lot of legs yet left.
Amazing.
One more, Bill, and then you can have it back. But I think about timing as a part of this, knowing that most institutions go back to where I started with control, partners. I feel like maybe we want to see how things go this year, Rick, before we start having those core education conversations. Is there a lot of hesitancy? What's the word I'm looking for? Hesitancy? Why can't I say that, Bill? Hesitancy out there? Good. Yep. Of jumping in with new partners right now. Everybody, is my institution is just different, Rick. Our institution's just different, and I want to take one more year.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it would be that as much as it is on what the current situation is of that institution. All right. So we're talking with institutions right now that are not yet partners. We believe that they will be. And the kind of conversations we're having with them, I'll just take one institution we're having with them right now, is we've shown them, our operating people have shown them all of the operating practices that need to be corrected as part of their traditional campus enrollment practices, right? And sometimes people say, well, should we put more marketing on? Should we hire another rep? And we're going like, possibly yes, but now's not the time. You need to fix your processes. You can't fix them, and we'll show you how to fix them. And one of the things that we can do, we can cut horizontally across the institution because institutions are so siloed. So like somebody in admissions or in marketing and enrollment, they need help with the registrar and the financial aid, and those are siloed. And what we'll help do is point that out and help get those barriers broken down. Or we might say, I'm just staying on very traditional campus enrollment for a second. We might say, look, at our operational people are going to work with you. We're going to get you market aligned so that you can move with speed and service to process your students. And what we see is let our team take your transfer students because you're not very good at that, right? You're very slow at processing. And let's take your fine and performing arts, because you're all heavy on athletics. And fine and performing arts, we jokingly say, but it's serious, your choir should be as big as your football team. But they don't take it as seriously. Let us do that as a part of a good example of kind of supporting services. So we will show them right now the work that they have to do, or we'll show them revenue cycles. We'll say, if you're 95% undergraduate campus enrolled, we're saying you basically have 1 to 2 revenue cycles a year, and you need to get to 20, 30, 100, 200 revenue cycles a year. We'll show you how to do that. We can bring things to the table, programs to the table. And then as they get to know that, so we'll be able to say to the board and so what part of this do you want to delay on, right? What part aren't you ready to go? So that comes just with building the relationship. By
the way, that choir student probably has a higher net tuition revenue than the football player, just for the record.
It does, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's incredible, critically important in all areas. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Joe, if you while I'm busy here with content, you might, if you're interested in some lessons in elocution, you could go listen to my podcast, EdUp Insights, and pay attention there.
We choose truth over facts.
But I want to get back to the business model because it's something that I'm obsessed with, and I'm looking, Rick, at the services that you offer, and you've got marketing, sales, technology, operations, compliance, That sounds a lot like what drives the general business model of the American economy.
Sales.
And I know you have good experience there too. So let's assume that you work your way out of a job and you actually get these institutions to be independent, successful, and dare I say, profitable.
Yikes!
What will that business model look like as opposed to the unsustainable one that higher education is clinging to at the moment?
Prosperity gap, because oftentimes, not oftentimes, institutions generally don't know their quality of earnings and where they need to be long term and set context. So what we will do is we'll help them and show them all the areas of underinvestment. Oftentimes you might get maybe board members who just say, well, if we could get a few hundred more students, we're going to be just fine. And then we'll point out to them through dialogue with the CFO and everything, here's what your quality of earnings look like. I mean, and I've done probably at least 50 of these now, 50 quality of earnings. And so I can pretty much quickly run through at a very high level, and it opens their eyes on the journey to prosperity. Do you have a 20-mile or a 2,000-mile journey? So we'll show them context and the why, that you can keep doing the incremental things, that you're basically setting your destination, you're setting your course by not aligning what we will call your strategic growth building blocks and your alignment, thinking from that mindset of abundance to say, how are we going to bridge that gap? And there's really no amount of cutting, although you need a sound a financial model, that they can't cut themselves to prosperity. So they have to think, and then oftentimes that requires diversification of revenue and doing things differently. So we do that work up front, Bill, with them, and it really does open their eyes. And we say about look at you're working on things that in one regard just don't matter. You could be successful in all of these areas, and you will continue to basically spin downwards. And so we try to help them realize that the mindset of abundance has been helpful for us. To show them what's possible, getting out of that austerity mindset.
Yeah, I think to your point, one of the things that's really easy to conclusion to come to is, well, we're just going to increase enrollment. And although that is the answer, it is really hard to do. Really hard to do these days, especially these days with all of the headwinds that we're facing. It's just not as feasible as it used to be. You can't just go, we're going to start a University of Phoenix lookalike and get 500,000 students in it. Those days, you've said it, Bill, those days are done. There will never be anything like that again. And so how has the business evolved? How will it evolve? Rick, which brings us to our final two questions that we ask every guest on this podcast. Number one, what else do you want to say about core ed? Anything at all? Open mic moment for you.
Yeah, I think that it would be for presidents and board members to get to know what we're doing and better understand, because oftentimes in that mindset of that box of what everybody knows, the answers are not there. They just aren't there. And so we're able to create a culture of prosperity with our partners. The amount of confidence that so many of our partners have about what they can do and what they're able to do is incredible. And so for an institution that knows they need to do something, but they don't know what it is they need to do, you will find some incredibly different types of approaches at Core, and we're doers. It's an operating company, it's not a consulting firm, and we put our people side by side with we're part of the operating team.
Before I ask you the final, just a quick follow-up. Do you have a quick success story for us? Is there an institution that off the top of your head you go, man, these guys were in trouble, things are going better, departmentally, financially? Do you have a case study example?
I'll tell you a lot of them. I wouldn't call it, the nice thing about it is that we're able to get good colleges. okay, as opposed to, colleges that are on their final deathbed. And that's what non-change of control helps, right? So that's really good. But we can take things from Greensboro College in North Carolina. Um, who gave them the right to go into healthcare, right? But now they're in it. And who gave them the right to go into advanced manufacturing? And all of a sudden they're changing the way they've done business, and the tide's rising. And I'll go to a Cornish College of the Arts out in Seattle. On the incredible confidence that institution has today. Working on not only long-term capital strategies with the board, but new operating procedures on how to attract students. They had their best fall class in years, just simply because we were able to open the eyes of how to do things differently. And the willingness is there. And I think once we start working, we've got a lot of great stories.
What do you see for the future of higher ed, Rick? You know better than most.
In incredible opportunities, a lot of difficulties out there, but with the difficult landscape comes great, incredible opportunities, institutional will and resolve, where we have leadership. It's all going to be about leadership. Give us a president who can lead. Incredible things can happen. And then also with that board support. But I'm really bullish, particularly on small mid-sized schools. But they have to have that willingness. But there's going to be a lot of issues as well.
Well, I got to say, 3 years ago when we talked to you about this, and it was kind of in the works, and then I know you've really more had like 2 years of full-on core ed to go from 0 to 17 institutions. I mean, a big congratulations from us in the higher ed community. It's remarkable what you've been able to achieve in a really short period of time. And I know many of the core ed employees, and you've got a great group of folks. I will say that. Very knowledgeable, great group of folks.
Absolutely, Joe. And it's all about people, and we're able to attract some really good people, and our work is really genuine, and would encourage anybody to just reach out to us and learn more.
Where do we go to do that? Contact you? Do we go to CORE's website?
Or core.edu and click and schedule a meeting, and we could be happy to begin the process of telling and telling our story and collaborating with you on what is possible to achieve long-term prosperity.
Well, unless you're Bill Pepicello and retired, you probably want to think about at least getting in the conversation, right, Bill?
Absolutely. My eyes have certainly been open today, and I look forward to stealing a lot of this content and using it on my own podcast. That's EdUp Insights every Monday.
See how that's stealing of content works, Rick?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great, Bill. It's been awesome. Great chatting with you as well.
Same here. And Joe, it's as always, it's a pleasure helping you to be successful.
Just remember,
Nobody can do that like me.
That's how, when I open, it's how I close. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest co-host today, you know him, you love him more than I do. He's Dr. Bill Pepicello, former president, University of Phoenix, higher ed vagabond, and host of EdUp Insights. Bill, any last words?
Just happy to be with you. And Rick, it's been a real pleasure finding out about your organization.
Thanks so much, Bill. Really appreciate it, Bill and Joe.
My guest today, ladies and gentlemen, your guest today, he's Rick Beyer. He is executive chairman of Core Education. Rick, episode 132 and now 700 something, 2 totally different jobs. Congratulations. And we hope you enjoyed your experience coming back again after 3 years.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Bill. Great to be with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.
Oh, yeah.
The Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2023 annual conference is in Philadelphia, December 4th through 6th. Setting the standard, transformation through accreditation. Remember, only you can create transformation through networking, knowledge sharing, opportunity, leadership, service, learning, and accreditation. And you'll do all those things at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education annual conference this December 4th through 6th. Can't wait to be there. EdUp will be there. There's going to be over 1,300 attendees, presidents, provosts. The networking opportunities are off the chain. Register now at msche.org.
Oh, yeah.
Attention higher ed marketing and enrollment management professionals. We are taking the EdUp Experience podcast to Insights EDU. Join us at Insights EDU on February 20th to 22nd, 2024 in Phoenix, Arizona. Gain insight into the latest higher education trends and cutting-edge marketing strategies that'll take your institution's enrollment to a whole new level. This is your opportunity to connect with higher education leaders and marketing experts from across the country. Comprehensive presentations, engaging panel discussions, and more. Insights EDU will equip you to position your institution for growth. Register now at insightsedu.com and use the code EdUp to save $50 off your registration. Can you afford to miss this conference?
I don't think so.